Hello and welcome back to Art Masters with me, Mrs. Portilla. Today we will be doing large-scale flowers by an artist named Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia liked to take flowers and zoom in on them and making them very bright and clear. She used dark value and light value to make it look realistic. So today we're going to be doing our own simplified, larger than life flower, just like Georgia O'Keeffe. Or maybe you're going to do a simpler landscape, just like Georgia O'Keeffe did simple landscapes as well. So when you're ready, let's go ahead and get started on our Georgia O'Keeffe watercolor. So I'm going to show you how to draw a large flower. I'm going to show you a very simple way, and then you can be a little bit more creative if you want to, with the petals for you older kids. If you're feeling uncomfortable and you want to do the extra simple project, you'll get this longer, skinnier paper. So today we'll either be doing a flower or the hills. So let me show you how to do the flower. First, I'm going to show you a very simple way. You can use your water cup that is empty as a template for the center of our flower. We notice they have a large center shape. You could put your flower center right in the center, or you could do it off center. And I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to just draw lightly around. Now, I messed up a little bit, and that's okay because flower shapes usually aren't perfectly symmetrical and circular. So if your circle isn't perfect, that's okay. If you decided you want to do the simpler hill, you're going to have your paper going up and down. For your paper, you're going to be at about halfway, and you're just going to draw a wavy hill shape. So go ahead and get your pencil, and you can use your template, or you could freehand draw. So for those of you that are going to be doing the hills, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to start at the edge of your current hill, somewhere towards the center, and then you're going to do another curve right off that page. For our flower, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the dots up here, so it's going to help me keep it large. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 fingers from the corner of my paper. I'm going to put a dot. 2 or 3 fingers from the corner of my paper, I'm gonna put a dot. Are all flower petals the same? They're not. So this does not have to be perfect. So then I'm gonna go from my circle, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. A curved shape to my dot. Do you see how it's going off the page? Okay, the other option, if you wanna maybe have some more petals, maybe you feel a little more confident, we're going to go from the center of our circle, right, just on the edge, and I'm going to do just maybe some skinnier curved shapes. So I could go off the page, or maybe I'm just going to do kind of these hilly loops. Some other petal shapes might be more of like a teardrop shape. Okay, so we're either doing these large kind of ends that go off your page, maybe a teardrop shape, or we're gonna just keep it simple. So go ahead and add the one large petal by drawing the dot, or you could draw maybe 2 or 3 petals using this end shape or the teardrop shape. And if you're doing the mountain, just go ahead and add that second hill shape. Very simple, large shapes. Okay, so if we're doing our mountain, we're just going to add a 3rd and maybe 4th mountain shape. So I'm just going to go from here, extra hill shape. Do you see how I'm not cutting through the shapes? I'm stopping at the edge, okay? And it is in pencil, so we are going to go over this later. So if you make a mistake, that's okay. For our large, simpler flower shape, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do about 2 fingers from this corner, and I'm going to put a dot, and I'm going to put 2 fingers from this corner, and I'm going to put a dot, okay? Now the difference is, this time, I'm going to go from this edge instead of from here. If you want, you could go from there, but I'm going to try this, going from this edge and doing a nice curve. Now I have a really big petal. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go about 2 fingers and put a dot. This one I went more like 3 fingers. I'm going to put a dot. I'm going to start from this edge of my petal over here, or line, and I'm going to curve, and then I'm going to, and if you're doing a more complicated flower, you're just going to keep on going with those petals. You're going to make the same shape. Maybe some go off of your page. Maybe some don't go off your page. So let's go ahead and add a couple more petals and hills. If you are noticing that your petals are getting a little tiny and far away from the edge, just add a couple more bigger petals that just go right off that page, right onto my newsprint. If you're doing these large petal ones, I could stop with 1, 2, 3 petals like I have here, or I could add a 4th petal. I'm going to add the 4th petal, and I'm going to go again, 2 finger spots, 2 or 3. You guys have smaller fingers than I do. I'm going to go right from this shape that I currently have, not from my circle, and I'm just going to go like this, a little curved shape. Even if I don't hit my dot exactly, it's okay. That's just there for reference, okay? So we're finishing with our petals and our hill shapes, keeping them large with pencil. No shading or details, just drawing. Excellent. So before we go any further, we're actually going to glue our picture down onto our black paper. We're going to get our black paper that correlates with the size that we chose, either the square or the rectangle, and we are going to get our Georgia O'Keeffe tag. You're going to glue your tag on the back and write your name on the back, and then you're going to flip it over and you're going to glue just your pencil drawing onto your black paper. So everyone should have a little pack of some watercolor colored pencils. So these are special pencils that when we paint water over them, it's going to turn into watercolor. We want to think about the feeling we want to create and the colors we want to use. So for the mountains, this person used some nice warm reds, oranges, pinks for their mountain landscape. So think about the color scheme that you want to do. So this person used some cooler colors, some blues and greens. So I'm going to do some reds, oranges, and yellows and set those out. So here's what I'm going to do, and this is going to work for the flowers as well. I'm going to outline over my pencil. If I push hard, I'm going to get a dark value. So I'm just doing a little bit of a dark outline. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with my flower. So I'm going to think about the color, orangey color for the center. So I'm going to go right over that line. So this is okay at this point if I don't do a perfect circle. So do you see how I'm not trying to just do it in one swoop? I'm kind of just taking little chunks like this, and I'm turning my paper with me. So go ahead and get your watercolored pencils, and you're just going over the edge of your pencil lines with the color that you're going to want. We're not scribbling in the design yet, we're just outlining. We're now just going to add a little bit more color coming into each shape. So let me show you first, because I'm not trying to just color this in. When I paint over with water, that color is going to spread when we get our brush. So darker value is more color, lighter value is less color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at each shape edge, and I'm just going to start, do you see how I'm following the shape with my pencil? Just like this. I'm just kind of adding, I'm not scribbling, I'm following the shape, and then I might just go down like that and stop. And then I'm going to take my orange, because that's the line I have here. I'm not scribbling, I'm just kind of following the shape, and then I'm going to stop. I'm leaving a lot of white space So you'll see, I went along with my shape, I didn't just scribble, and then I left a lot of white space because once I put my water brush on top, I'm gonna be able to spread some of this, and Georgia O'Keeffe left the white of her canvas or paper as white sometimes. So that's what we're gonna do. So the same thing for the flowers. At the tip of, like the edge of my petal, I'm gonna follow the shape, and then I might just stop just like that. So I'm gonna go follow the shape, and for this big petal, you'll notice for my circle shape, I just did little circles around the edge, and then I left the center white. And then for this big shape, I'm actually gonna color just a little bit and then I'm gonna color along the edge, following the shape. You're gonna add a little bit more color towards the edge of your shape, and then you're just gonna come down and leave it light. Excellent. Okay, so these are definitely not finished colored in shapes, but trust me, these are gonna look great in a couple of minutes. So the next thing I'm gonna do, you guys maybe have heard of wax resist, where you use your waxy crayon, and then when you put watercolor over your waxy crayon, the watercolor goes right over that crayon. So this is gonna be the same idea. We're gonna use this dark crayon for some details and shading before we go over with water. So my friend's doing the hills. What you're gonna do is we're just gonna go over the outline. So I'm gonna go over the top of this mountain, and I'm not even pushing that hard. And I'm just going over the top of this mountain, just like that for my mountains. For you guys that maybe wanna be a little more advanced, you could add just a little bit of shading with your crayon, which would just be a couple of extra black strokes just by all of the edges. But black can be a little overpowering, so we really don't want to use a lot. So if you're doing the mountains and you want to add a couple of extra black little dashes, you can. Otherwise, just outline that mountain with crayon. For my flower, same thing. Remember, this does not have to be perfect. So I don't want you to use your template. I want you to just kind of freehand this. So I'm just going to go around the edge. Instead of trying to do it in one swoop, I might just do a couple of these little half lines. And if it's not perfect, that's actually gonna look more realistic. So you'll notice I didn't do it perfect. And when I brush over that, that's gonna actually look really interesting. So don't get frustrated if you don't do your lines perfect. It's gonna look really cool when we're done, okay? So go ahead and take your crayon and start outlining those pencil lines. Okay, excellent. So you'll notice on my flowers that I didn't add any shading yet with my black. So if you want to add a little bit of detail with your black crayon, you can. So when we're looking at these flowers, you see there's just a little bit of fuzzy in there. Maybe there's a little dash. So here's what I'm gonna do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little dashes to show kind of the inside part. Just a couple. Oh, look it, you guys, I messed up. Instead of panicking though, I'm gonna use this to my advantage because I accidentally went into my circle. So what can I do? I'm gonna follow those little dashes and pretend that I meant to use those. And I'm just gonna add a couple more random dashes so it looks intentional. You like how I did that? I might just add a little line to a couple of these flower petals, just like that. Am I going overboard and scribbling with black? I'm not. I just added a couple of dashes and a couple of lines. So if you want to finish outlining with your crayon and maybe adding a couple little dashes here and there, you could do so. We're going to start with the watercolor, okay? So while my helpers are getting these little cups, we don't need a lot of water. We just need a very little bit of water, okay? And our brushes. So while our helpers are getting the water and the brushes, just notice, is there anywhere that needs maybe a little bit more color on the edge? So the darker you do the color on the edge, the brighter it's gonna be. You definitely wanna leave some white spots, okay? So we're gonna paint 1 section at a time. Our paintings, our drawings should be glued onto our black paper. Our name should be on the back. So that way when it's drying, we're all set, okay? So I have a little paper towel. You could have any sort of napkin or tissue. I'm just gonna put a little bit of water and I'm gonna dab it, okay? Because I don't need a ton of water. So I'm gonna start with my purple section. So I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna follow the shape, okay? Follow the shape. I'm gonna start at the top, I'm following the shape, and then I'm pulling down, okay? Now, if I go back and forth, I can do so lightly to try to blend it a little bit more, and then I'm gonna bring my color down. If I wanna try to pull a little bit more from the edge, I can kind of go back and forth over that purple edge, and then pull it down, okay? I don't need that much water. Dab it, dip. And now I'm gonna go over my red. So I'm gonna start on my edge, kind of going back and forth. Ooh, look at that nice bright red. Coming down, and I'm gonna stop before I mix into that purple. I'm trying to keep my colors separate. Water, dab. Now I'm gonna go into my orange. And then I'm gonna dab, dab, and I'm gonna go into my yellow. With my flower, I'm gonna dab, and I'm gonna go around the edge of my circle in a circular motion. And then I'm barely gonna go over the center because I wanna keep it a little bit white. I went over my petals, I'm okay with that, okay? So I'm gonna dip, dab, and now I'm gonna go on the edge, and I'm gonna pull it down. So go ahead and just dip a little bit of water and do each color section separately and pull down, okay? So you start where the most color is and you pull down. Okay, excellent. Just real quick, if you're having some frustrations, maybe you noticed you have a little bit too much space down here. If it's not super wet, you could take your color. Now, if it's super wet, it's gonna rip the paper. But if it's not super wet, you could maybe you wanna just add a little bit of color to the bottom edge. And then you would just take your brush and you would just be adding a little more hint of a color. For this one, you'll notice that I went outside of the lines, and that's okay. I might just take my brush with just water, and you can kind of just do some circular scrubs. Don't ruin the paper, I'm not pushing hard, but just to lighten it up a little bit, okay? Right. But those are just a couple of tips on how you could adjust slightly. So you guys should have some beautiful watercolors that are already glued with your name on the back, and you are done with your large scale O'Keeffe landscape or flower. Great job, my friends, doing your Georgia O'Keeffe flower or hills. If you have time to evaluate, maybe you did the hills, you could look at the different colors used and the composition and the wash. Maybe you did a simplified flower. You could evaluate the values, which are the lights and darks, and maybe any other details that you notice about each other's work. So great job today on your O'Keeffe flower.